Hey, everybody. This is Trevor Crow, Trevor and Friends. Thank you so much for listening in on this very wet, rainy day. On the phone is Ceci Maher. Hey, Ceci.
Hey, Trevor. How are you?
Really good. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Anybody listening in, I want to give you just a little heads up. Ceci Maher is our state senator from District 26. So she's got Darien, New Canaan, Reading, Ridgefield, Stamford, Weston, Westport, and Wilton. And she has a lot of doors to knock and a lot of, DDC committee meetings to attend. How are you doing, Ceci?
I'm great. I'm just heading back home from Hartford. We had a fabulous press conference about our new early childhood initiative and the endowment we just established.
Oh, I'm excited.
That is going to be transformational for children and providers and parents in Connecticut, the first in the nation to do this.
Oh, I'm so impressed. I'm so glad. And so you've been really focused on that, Ceci. Is that correct?
That is very, very much true.
All right, just say it one more time. This is a huge deal for us in Connecticut for childcare. Most people don't realize, if you don't have kids, you don't understand what this is like. But childcare here in the state costs as much as rent, if not more.
Absolutely. And the sad thing is there isn't enough childcare, and people can wait up to a year to get their child into a program, and parents aren't able to both go back to work. And so it is not just a child care issue, it's a labor force issue, it's an economic issue.
Yep.
So we're trying, with this new endowment, which is going to be funded on a yearly basis, it will create a future for, instead of just older kids, it's going to be birth to 5.
Wow.
So we are going, yes, it's phenomenal. And children whose parents make less than $100,000 a year will not pay anything. And parents who make over $100,000 will be capped at 7% of their income.
Wow.
So the whole thing is going to be transformational, and we're going to be paying providers with actual pay equivalent to our teachers.
Oh my
because
gosh.
they are creating the helping kids' brains develop.
Right.
And we have been paying attention to that.
This is amazing.
It is. It's truly incredible. It's transformational in every way.
All right. I'm going to reiterate. I'm on the phone with Ceci Maher. She is state senator from District 26. Ceci's talking about really a revolution almost, or close to. We're the first state in the country, the nation, to do this, which is create a child care endowment, which allows for families to pay nothing if they get paid under $100,000, capped above $100,000 at 7%. It also pays higher for the child care providers because they're the people actually working with your children and helping them develop their brains and their learning, etc. This is incredibly important across the board for all Connecticut residents. So, Ceci, how are you guys funding this endowment? What is the process?
Well, the process is that before the end of the year, before the end of the fiscal year, if there is any unexpended funds, they will be put into up to $300 million a year, be put into this endowment. And then once the auditor, our comptroller, does the audit, the annual audit, the funding will be trued up against the amount that was moved into the endowment. So if there should be more, there'll be more. If there should be less, there'll be less. It'll be trued up. And then that money will be expended, not all of it, obviously, but just a portion of it every year. And that's set up in a formula so that we can continue to grow this endowment so that it will be able to fund child care in Connecticut.
It's such a brilliant idea. Because you're not saying, okay, I'm going to take this money sort of out of taxpayer dollars and we're just going to use the money elsewhere. I mean, in this particular way, this is really building an endowment which will grow over time that we can use to do this. It's a great idea. Who came up with that idea?
You know, I can't say that I know because there have been many people involved in this. Governor Lamont has been tremendous in his support. A lot of this came out of a blue ribbon panel that was done with early child care, which came out of COVID, with the understanding that people who needed to go back to work during COVID, nurses, doctors, couldn't go to work because their children, they had no place for their children to go. And it really shone a spotlight on how important child care providers are to the economy of our state, to the welfare of our people.
Yeah, it's an incredible thing. Really important. So one of the things that just anybody listening in, Ceci Maher also has a background in social work. Is that correct? In counseling?
Yes, an MSW. Yeah.
MSW. And I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. We both know, and we're both taught, and both of us are moms, that period 0 to 5 is so important in our children's development. And when those children have structure, people who care, being paid well, there's no changing, there's no worry and anxiety from the parents' place, these kids can really thrive, right? Is that right, Ceci?
Oh, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, because 80% of our brains grow in the first 3 years of life. So the fact that we weren't addressing early childcare at birth to 5 meant that we were saying that those most important developmental time of a child's learning wasn't important. And what we know from school teachers, from people in kindergarten, is that they can tell the difference if a child who's coming into kindergarten has been in childcare or not been in childcare.
Wow.
Because
so that
of
clear.
Language development and their ability to interact, and they're ready to learn in kindergarten.
Wow.
So
it was so
we're
important.
making an investment in the future of Connecticut. So it sounds like we're just taking care of children, but we're doing so much more. We're making an investment in the future of Connecticut, in the future labor force, just allowing parents to get back to work and being engaged. Oh, it's just going to be phenomenal. And plus, I'm sorry to go on and on.
I like it.
The other thing is there is funding under the construction of additional child care facilities, and for child care facilities to create a more usable space so that they can potentially have more children in their child care home or child care facility. And
That's
then
amazing.
Additionally, we know any mom who has a little one knows that when a child is in child care, everybody shares germs.
Oh, gosh.
Everybody shares germs.
I remember those days.
Right? And so the child care provider can't afford insurance, which means they can't afford health insurance. And therefore, when they get sick, they can't afford to go to the doctor.
Oh, my gosh.
So we're looking at ways, part of the funding that's going to be coming out of this fund is helping child care providers with insurance coverage.
Wow.
Be able to join an insurance pool.
Wow. This is just in a full immersion. You guys have thought about this from literally every angle. I love it.
Well, I think that it's really important to note that it wasn't just legislators at the table. It was child care providers. It was advocates. It was all different types of people coming at it with different lenses and all working together to get this done.
That must have been really exciting for you and very purposeful. How did that feel for you?
Oh, well, when it passed, I cried.
Oh, my gosh.
I know what a difference it makes. I know how important it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So here's another. I was talking to Lucy Dathan just a little bit earlier about the big, beautiful bill, which will actually gut so many human services, even in our state, but across the country. And one of them is Head Start, of course. So how does your bill address that?
Well, I think what's important about it is that Head Start is one of those programs that allows for children to be in a situation where they're learning and thriving and growing. And so this is what my bill, although will not supplant Head Start, because Head Start is a large program that's very important and, has its origins back in the 60s.
Oh, my God.
And so, and it is a proven, data-driven, analyzed. It's not just something that comes off the top of someone's head. This is really an important program.
Yeah.
So I don't think that we can replace Head Start. I don't believe so. Head Start is one of a continuum of child care situations and facilities.
Yep.
So it is going to be, this bill in D.C. is going to be devastating across multiple fronts.
Yes, we know that. So I just want to remind anybody who might be just tuning in right now, I am on with Ceci Maher. She's driving home. She just had a press conference. Ceci is State Senator from District 26, and the press conference was regarding this big, very important child care bill or endowment that your public officials have worked very hard to create and been very thoughtful. And I'm really impressed because this is going to impact so many families. But anybody out there listening who is like, politicians are corrupt or they don't do anything, they got to meet Ceci Maher, right? You're working hard.
Well, I don't know if Lucy mentioned this, but I think it's worth mentioning. And Trevor, you know about this. We have in Connecticut the Citizens Election Program. And the Citizens Election Program, the most money I need to raise is $17,000 in order to run my race. And that's the $17,000 can't be more than around $300.
Yep, I remember it well.
Yeah. And it has to be someone from a certain percentage of those have to come from people who live in my district.
That's right.
So Connecticut is a remarkable state, one of the few in the country that have a program like this. And so when people think about Connecticut legislators, they should not think about us being beholden to anyone because we have a phenomenal program here in Connecticut.
We're very lucky. And again, I have seen, or I know you guys have to work through so much to get to the place where you can pass this. I know it's 220 bills out of 3,500. You had to sift through all of that and listen to hours and hours of people discussing. And I mean, it's overwhelming. I don't know. How do you do it? Because you're driving back and forth.
Oh, well, thank God that I can listen to legislative public hearings while I'm in the car driving. I'm not watching, but I am listening. And it's sort of like listening to the radio, except it's all public hearings or committee meetings or things that I'm trying to catch up on. So that hour plus hour, 15, 20 minutes in the car really comes in handy. And then it's exciting to me because as a social worker and as someone who ran an emergency response agency for 14 years, person to person, I like to see where the problems are and then go help fix them. Yeah. And so This is right in line with everything that I've always done.
That is amazing. Amazing. So now you've run you've now had 2 sessions. Are you thinking about, or you haven't decided for the next turn? We're a little early, so you don't have to announce, but is it on in your potential list of things to do?
Oh, it's always something I'm thinking about. But the other thing I'm thinking about more is what are the bills we're going to bring out next year? What are the fixes? What are the things that we weren't able to do? I know you're aware of this very big housing bill that was passed this year. And I was just getting in my car before I called you because I was talking with the governor about the parking component, which is a big concern, a very big concern. I sent emails out to everyone who contacted me, letting them know that, that is something I will work on next session because I don't think it's a good idea to have the no parking for under 24 units. And so we need to fix it.
Oh, wow.
No with the governor about it.
I was unaware of that. Okay, so just repeat that so I fully put my head around it. No parking.
One component of the bill is if you build a unit 24 or less, an apartment 24 or less units, there was no requirement to have parking for that building.
Okay, that's a problem.
That's a problem, and so a very big problem. There were many, many good things about the bill, contrary to a lot of the pushback that we're hearing. It definitely is something we need to fix in Connecticut. We have a need for anywhere between 90 and 110,000 units.
Yep, we're in dire need.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we cannot grow a strong economy if we can't bring businesses in because they don't know where their people are going to live.
Right.
So that is something that I believe strongly about the future of Connecticut and the economy. But this particular piece was very difficult. And I plan to work very hard to get it fixed.
Oh, I see.
With the governor about it.
So just to make sure I fully understand this and anybody listening in is understanding this, on the phone with Ceci Maher, State Senator, District 26. So the question is, in this fair share housing bill, there's if you build under 24 units, you don't have to have any parking. And that could be really detrimental because we don't have any parking on the street here in Greenwich, hardly any at all. So I don't know where people would put their cars.
Well, that's exactly why I found it so difficult. But again, sometimes we have to think about, and because I knew that the bill didn't go into effect until next year, I knew that I had time in the coming legislature to put in a bill and advocate for the bill and fix that before it went into effect.
All right. So that'll be one of your number one priorities. What else will you be working on next year?
Oh, my gosh. Well, we have a children's behavioral health. I sit as one of the tri-chairs of the Children's Behavioral Health Policy and Oversight Committee. And we have been working since COVID. There are many lines of demarcation that, start at COVID time. But there are urgent care unit facilities and also mobile crisis units that create safety for our youth who are having mental health crises. And so we put in place a bill that did not get called in the Senate this year, so I'm going to bring it back next year, to make sure that we have what we need for those facilities. And also, another part of that bill was raising the age for autistic disability, people with autism who have, there was a sort of a drop off a cliff at 22 on insurance. And so the bill was to move insurance to 26.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that then young people who were getting services didn't fall off a cliff at the age of 22 when they could have been covered until 26. So, that's in line with young adults staying on their parents' policy until 26.
Which is great.
So those were just two straight-up pieces that we were working on in those bills. So we'll bring them back next year.
That's great to hear. Children's behavioral health is a really big deal. Again, both of us have worked, or I continue to work in that space. We do know that kids are in mental health crisis. The federal government has done quite a bit of draconian cutting around mental health resources, so that too will hit our state. Is that something you would consider an endowment or funding it through something similar to what you did for childcare?
Oh, that is such a lovely idea, and unfortunately, I'm not sure that we can do that much. We don't have unlimited funds.
Right.
As a nonprofit executive director, I knew how to run a budget, and I know that even looking at the state budget, we do not have unlimited funds.
Right.
So while we've just done this transformation transformational thing with childcare and moving it into an endowment and moving funds into that endowment. We are going to have to make sure that we actually fund that level that we plan.
Yep.
And that's first and foremost in my mind, that we get that done so we follow through on this promise to families and children and providers to make sure it's fully funded.
To remind everybody, the funding for that child care plan is coming from surpluses. Is that correct? So if we do really well, and we've had a bunch of years now where we've been able to fill the rainy day fund, we've paid down liabilities, pension liabilities, we've freed up, I think it's $600 to $900 million a year in interest payments because of paying all that down. So now we have a little bit more wiggle room, is what I'm hearing, to do something like that.
Well, I just want to be very clear that this is an unallocated funds that are being moved off before the end of the year. So we're not addressing any of the caps by doing this because this is unallocated funding.
Okay.
So that's really important for people to understand that we're not moving things, going over our guardrails.
Got it. So, okay, so this budget that just passed, the number one thing that you focused on was the children, the early childhood support, and all of the pieces of it that you guys all pulled together. Housing obviously has been top of your list. What else? Have you gotten involved in the energy discussion, et cetera?
Oh, very much so. Energy is an enormous component of people's monthly bills, and I am delighted by the fact that this bill that we just passed last week, I guess Thursday or not Thursday, but Tuesday or Wednesday, will bring down people's bills by 5%.
5%. Okay.
Their monthly bill. And then now that is before we know whether or not Eversource is going to be asking for a rate hike.
Right.
So we're talking about prior to any rate hikes, they will bring down bills by 5%. And then the other piece of this is that it maintains our commitment to renewable energy, which I think is absolutely essential.
I am so glad to hear that.
Yes, it is essential that we do that, because if we don't, we are going to be in the same position years from now that we're in right now. So we know that this past March, I believe it was in March, there were more, I think it was 60% in the Northeast. 60% of the energy in the Northeast came from renewable energy.
Wow, I had no idea it was that high.
Just for that one period, but nonetheless, it was the first time ever that we hit that level.
Wow.
And so what that tells us is there is capacity that we can be building, and that if we can do a range of options on renewables. I'm very excited about the growth of battery storage so that we can capture these renewables in batteries so that when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing, we are going to have battery storage for energy.
So you're talking about maybe incentivizing people to build these sort of battery storage. I mean, I know Tesla has a wall battery that you can fill up. Are there other options for that?
Well, no, I think we're in early days.
Okay.
But, as you just mentioned, Tesla, it does have that. But it's early days in battery storage. They're making great progress. But my point is we need to do the renewables so that we can take advantage of this as the batteries come online.
Got it.
And another bill that was really important was the environment. We finally passed an environment bill last year. We were not able to pass one, and there was a lot of disappointment and unhappiness, understandably, from environmentalists, of which I consider myself one.
Yeah.
And this one has a lot of carrots, and it is we're asking towns to do road assessment for runoff. I don't know.
Oh, great.
Yeah, back in last August, we had roads that at absolutely were flooded out and ruined. And
oh my goodness.
So this whole idea is to make sure that the towns are looking at their roads and looking at how are they built and what the runoff is, so we can be prepared for these kinds of storms.
I think that's great. We certainly need that big time here in Greenwich. The last thing I wanted to ask you, because we're going to have to go in a couple minutes, but you were really supportive of this school emergency preparedness, I believe, and you got that passed.
Yes, that is a great bill. So after Sandy Hook, we had the Sandy Hook emergency response bill, and that put $20 million into a fund that schools can apply for as a grant request and to use in their school.
Great. And what does that mean? What can they put in there?
Well, so what we did this year was we added a component to the emergency response that schools can now put a grant for. It is the mobile card.
That's great. You know, Ceci, I am so sorry. I'm going to have to interrupt you. We're ending up our time here, and thank you for spending some time with me, and thank you for the hard work you're doing in your service to the state of Connecticut. You are fantastic.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure talking to you, Trevor. Sorry I went on and on.
No worries. Bye, Ceci. Next week we have Susan Byshewitz on the phone, so be sure to tune in. Take care, everybody. Be safe.
To the flow now.